Good evening. Hey there, welcome to my channel and tonight's live. And if you're new to the channel, we talk all things true crime here. So if that's something that you're interested in, don't forget to subscribe, like the video, all those good things. So earlier today, I didn't realize when we did our live, that was just the arraignment that we had watched. I was like, man, that seemed pretty short for, being three different things that they needed to talk about. What was like 15 minutes? We ended up staying on the live for I think an hour or something after it, just to make sure. I was like, are we going anywhere with this? Because it looked like people were leaving the courthouse. I don't know if you guys were here for the first half of the live or for the live this morning. For the Bryan Kohberger arraignment, but it was, they were all coming out, so I assumed it was over. I assumed that it was done. We didn't hear any tweets from Bryan Enton. Nothing was going on. I went outside. I went to sit outside, so I'm super red and brown. I look crazy now. But I went outside to sit down and just get some sun. And then I came back in and I was like, wait a minute. They did another hearing. We're missing something here. So here I am, here we are. If you missed it, this is what we'll be talking about. Here, let me turn my camera on, show you guys me and all of my redness. I feel like I got burnt today. And I was only out for an hour. Whoops. So yeah, as we're getting the likes up and all of the good stuff and getting everybody into the chat, I'll kind of go over what happened today. So Bryan, that's him there. Bryan Kohberger was arraigned today in the Latah County Jail or courthouse for the murders of the 4 Idaho college students, Kaylee, Maddie, Xan, and Ethan, and 1 count of burglary. I've never seen this in my day, but he decided to enter a plea of silent. So it's a standing in silence plea. Or being mute during the plea process. When a defendant enters a standing silent plea, basically what it does is just tells the judge that, the judge is just going to put it in there as a non-guilty. So it doesn't say, one way or the other if he's guilty or if he's innocent, but the judge just puts it in the books as he is not guilty. That way he'll get his due process, I guess. So this one is this, and so this is what's his name? Joe Logston. I think that's his second lawyer there. During the proceedings, I only saw a minute of it, and then I didn't want to watch it without you guys, so I didn't watch it. But he was just sitting kind of back in his chair, and I'm like, oh gosh, this guy's cocky already. Just in my opinion, just because I always feel like if you're in a courtroom, because we saw the Letitia Stout trial. If you're in a courtroom and you're a jury, or not juror, jury included, or you're a prosecutor, you're a defendant, defense attorney, anything, you should be sitting up in your chair. You should be there present in the moment. I feel like it's just a respect thing. I'm really big with respect, if you guys can't tell, in the courtroom. And I don't know, just sitting back in your chair is not a form of respect to me. I don't know. But there are a number of reasons why, a defendant would would choose to stand mute. In some cases, they may be attempting to delay the process, the proceedings, or hoping to negotiate a plea agreement with the prosecution. But in other cases, they may be protesting the legitimacy of the court or the charges against them. So this could go either way. Really, both of those kind of apply. And it says, let me see. Yeah, it says there are a number of reasons why a defendant may choose to stand mute. In some cases, they may be attempting to delay the proceedings or hoping to negotiate a plea agreement with the prosecution. So, that's one thing, maybe they do want to do that. But it says in other cases, they may be protesting the legitimacy of the court or the charges against them. I could see Bryan Kohberger doing that as well. And I can't remember his exact words. But was it trial? Because he said, I can't wait to get, wasn't it to court or was it to trial so that I can be exonerated? Because I'm just wondering what part of the trial process the exoneration comes in. So I'm ready, you know. Right, we're all ready for that. Oh, you did, Ashley? I'll have to check it out. I haven't checked my email today. Ooh. And hello, everybody. Everybody's coming in. We got Eddie in here. Where you at, Rich? So funny. We're start doing roll call. That would be so funny, wouldn't it? Don't think I won't. Don't think I will not go on another live and be like, make sure, yeah, and write everyone's name down and be like, do roll call. That would be funny. Do you know how many people? You know how many people would like be like, oh my gosh, you take forever to get started. I'll be like, sorry, we're doing roll call. He said eager to be exonerated. Yeah, I'm wondering if he said when though. Crime Curious said present. Good evening, Scorpelina. So yeah, so this is another thing too. I didn't know about. So BTK, he did the same thing, I guess. He did a standing silent plea, which I don't even know why they call it. He did a silent plea. He sat. I don't even know if he stood up whenever she said that. He didn't, did he? She just stood up and said it. I'll have to watch it again. It was only 15 minutes, but I'm going to watch it again. For sure. And hey, everybody coming into chat. Thank you for joining us tonight. Don't forget, if you don't mind hitting that like button, send it out to the algorithm. It brings more people in. So, and then another thing, I was like kind of confused today. Let me know what you guys think. I have two pictures of Bryan because I have heard like two people now mention that Bryan today, they said that he looks like he has like his hair's more grown out. But today his hair looks shorter to me. They also said that he looks slightly, or I think he looks slightly smaller now. That's just my personal opinion. But let me know what you guys think. I think he looks slightly smaller in the face. Because you can't really tell because like the Kevlar vest. I'll show you the next picture in a minute. But yeah, I think his hair looks shorter today to me. Maybe it's because it has like some gel or something in it. But so this is from today's proceedings. And look at the face, look at the eyes. And then wait until I show you the one from the first court proceedings. Because he has kind of the same look, but not. This is when he was like walking in. Let me try to like blow this up for you. Doesn't his hair look longer there? I thought his hair looked shorter today, like he got a haircut. And I don't think he's eating that great. I mean, probably stress and vegan, but yeah. I thought like in his cheekbones, it just looked like they were more defined to me. But he was clenching today. He was clenching. He looks like he got a perm. He does. He does look like he got a perm. Now, yeah, so look at him here. I could tell the difference just in the facial, his body. He looks more, this picture, he looks more, like I'm here for the show. I don't know. And then when I was looking at the second picture, I was like, oh, he looks kind of like, do we got this? Like a deer in the headlights. But his hair looks shorter to me here. And he looks thinner to me. His arms, look how skinny his arms look. I didn't even notice his little skinny arm there. But yeah, I think his hair looks shorter. But Bryan N was one of them. He was like, yeah, his hair looked longer today. And I'm like, what? And then I heard someone else say it. And I'm like, what? Wait a minute. I was like, I think it looks shorter. Because I think I said that on the live. I was like, I don't want to sound like I'm crazy, but you know. But I mean, I already am crazy. We did. We made it past 8K. Thank you guys so much for subscribing to the channel. I did like a whole speech about it last night because I was just feeling it. I'm excited to hit 10K. It's just going to go up. It'll be so exciting. And then, you know, we'll have Nancy in the back there. You think he looks determined here? I think he looks kind of nervous. I don't know. But his attorney looks like he's just having a good day. You know, he's making 180 an hour. He's walking in like, let's go. Oh my gosh, Melissa, that's funny that you say tofu. I could send him boxes of tofu if he needs it. I could feed Kohberger for a long time if in the jail. If he just stays in the jail, just keep him in there. I'll feed him all the tofu he wants. Vincent's mom sends it out. he seemed very assured today when he was with his answers, the yes, the no. I don't know why he can't just throw one of those your honors out there. That's just me. I'm stuck on it. At least in the beginning, I know it's like a repetitive. You have to say yes, your honor, no, your honor, but at least like try to like address it. But that was what I was. So I wanted to show you a couple things. We already went over the standing mute definition, so I don't really got to go over that again. There were some court papers that came out tonight, but I don't think that they were anything. I didn't see anything big in there. Let me refresh the page just because it's getting later over on that side. Okay, yeah, because it says that these were put out on the 19th, but they weren't because we went through all of the court documents the other day. These ones don't sound like they're anything that's like, I don't think it's anything, so. Either his hair was short or his nose grew. Legendary. To me, I don't know. To me, he looks worried, but maybe, like, compared to this picture, I don't know. This picture, I think he looks confident, more confident. And in this picture, I think he looks just more, like, nervous. But maybe that's just me. Maybe I'm nervous for him. Because, well, and I also have a video to show you guys. I don't know if you saw my video today. If you didn't, make sure you go check it out because it's on my shorts. But let me pause it. I don't know how to rewind it. Let me see. We'll just do this. Okay, so I'm going to show you this video. It's it doesn't have sound, but it's the Gonzalez family showing up for court, and it has all of the family there. You'll see Christy and you'll see Olivia with the baby, and the baby is like in her chest, like on her chest. It's like in a little carrier. So cute. I was like, oh, I felt so bad for the family walking in. Christy smiled, and I think she said something, maybe like hello or something to one of the reporters, but it was just, I don't know. It was, I felt really bad for all of these families. And it's a little fuzzy in the beginning until it like focuses in. But I think that's her brother right there, isn't it? I think. It's a lot of people, you know? So I don't know, Mandy Joe, because they said that there was going to be other family members there the other day. Mr. Gonzalez said that, but I don't see him in here. And then Bryan Enton said this morning that Steve, I don't see Steve in this video. So what I'm thinking is maybe Steve was with the other family members, getting them all together, because Bryan Enton said this morning on his we didn't get to listen to it because we got right into court. I actually got to listen to it. He said that Mr. Gonzalez was trying to rally all of the families together. That way they could kind of walk in together, but I think maybe they wanted to get in. Maybe they have the baby and stuff. They wanted to get in, but... Oh, was he in the back? I didn't see him. I saw Attorney Gray. Was he with Gray? Maybe that's what it is. And I just couldn't see it. So, yeah. So Mandy, you said her or Maddie. Why am I saying Mandy? Who the hell's Mandy? Well, I don't know who Mandy is, but Maddie. We've been talking about her since November 13th. Her mom was there. Oh, I didn't know that. Oh, he was behind a little bit. Oh, probably just guarding his nest, guarding his roost. You know. Just oh gosh, I feel for him. I feel for that whole family. I hope that did he keep the mutton chops? Did you see if he had that? The facial hair, because I love it. I'm here for it. I think he should keep it. I don't know, Catherine. I was wondering the same thing. I didn't see Jack there, but I have a feeling he'll be there. Or maybe it's hard for him, but I have a feeling. I was wondering if Jake was there. Just because of the post he did. It was their 2-year anniversary, like not too long ago. So I thought maybe he would go. So I love the facial hair. I do too. Yeah, I have the team list. I think it's very intimidating. Makes him look like a badass. And he has gotten swollen. He's like, I'm like, dude, when we saw him on the last interview, I was like, he looks so big. Like, he just looks, you know. I think that he, I don't know, just made himself, I think he's been working out. Yeah, you couldn't tell he had on a bulletproof vest. For sure, you couldn't. You really couldn't. So this is the second half. So this is going over the gag order and all of that stuff pertaining to the Gonzalez's and here I have my notes so I can remember the Gonzalez's and the news, like the news stations being able to, you know, talk under the gag order. So they're going to address the gag order. I didn't watch any of this. I was just kind of flipping through it because I watched like 2 seconds of it and I saw him sitting back in his chair and I was like, huh, I'll go ahead and wait and watch it with you guys. So yeah, tell Boo Thing happy birthday. The devil's lettuce. Oh, people always be smoking in the parking lots around here. So, and what do you guys think? Okay, what do you guys think about him not pleading at all? Like, because to me, I mean, that just speaks volumes to me. I don't know. If I'm not guilty of something, if I'm not guilty, then I'm putting in a not guilty, you know, that's going to be my plea, not guilty. Not, I'm going to sit down and be silent, but I can talk and I can understand every other thing that you're saying. And he was even interrupted him. I like caught it earlier, but I was like, did I catch that right? Like he was getting ready to like say like the fifth, like talking about the fifth murder plea. And he was like, yes, like he was aware, he was ready to get out of there. Like, I don't know. He's waiting to see what the next move is. I think he is too. So we'll watch this and we'll discuss it and everything. So this will be the second half of his and of the hearing today.
Let's get back on the record then. Back on the record, State versus Bryan Kohberger, CR 29222805. I was explaining how the order and the scheduling conference might go, at least my plan. And so I'm going to start with you, Mr. Carone. Your clients have the motion to vacate the amended non-dissemination order filed May 1. Also the motion to intervene filed May 1, same date. And now this case is in my hands, so I need to set a hearing. And I'm wondering how far out. I'd like to get some briefs, and this is a message to everybody before the hearing, including I want to hear arguments about whether or not there should be cameras in the courtroom in a high-profile case like this one. So, Mr. Carone, what looks good for you? And let me throw out, knowing that a lot of you were prepared to be here the week of June 26th, that might make sense. But I'll hear from you, Mr. Carone.
Yes, Your Honor. So with our motion to vacate, motion to intervene, we briefed the merits issues there. I think as the court's aware, we also briefed those issues before the Idaho Supreme Court, so I would think we could be ready to move pretty quickly. We have not briefed the issue about video cameras in the courtroom, so if that's something that you'd like the media coalition to weigh in on as well, we would need to submit a separate brief on that, but we can do that in the week of the 26th. The 26th itself, I'm not available, but the rest of the week would work.
Excellent. And I'll tell you, the reason that I'm bringing up cameras in the courtroom is because if I address that issue, and I haven't let you all know that that might be an issue, then I'm going to get a lot of grief for not allowing you to brief that issue. So that's why I'm giving you an advance notice on that. How do you feel about the afternoon of June 27? Given what's happening just quite recently, we might want to do that in person. I'm willing to do it remotely, but then we have to, there are a lot of different interests and different people who want to weigh in on that, so might be better to be in person. But does that work for you? Say starting at 1:30, June 27, Mr. Carone?
Yes, Your Honor, that works for me. And Ms. Olson and myself can both come in person. We would have been there today in person, but we found out about the in-person option on Friday, so I apologize for using Zoom today, but we can certainly be there in person. If the court's anticipating hearing from witnesses that day to hold an evidentiary hearing, there may be some witnesses that would want to appear via Zoom if that's okay with the court, but I'm not sure if that's even something you're contemplating. I'm just flagging it in case you are.
Well, let me put it this way. It's your motion and others' motions. And one of the complaints that I've seen in the briefing is that there's no evidence in the case supporting any of it. You know, we're all kind of moving forward on supposition, I guess. And some of it is obvious, but I think that would be wise. I suppose you could just file declarations, and that's what's been doing, how that's been going. I might, if we're going to have a lot of testimony, I might want to move this back to 10 a.m. just to make sure that we have enough time to get things finished that day. Would that work for you?
Sure. So our position on the evidentiary issue is your summary was correct, that we don't believe that there is an adequate factual record at this point. Given that it is our motion and it's based on the record that existed when the order was issued, procedurally I'm not.
We gotta address this lady, okay? Because I can't stop. What? Someone help her. This lady. Someone says she needs a vacation. She needs more than that. Oh my good God. I didn't watch this before you guys. That's why I wait for this stuff, because it kills me to see your guys' comments. But oh my God, did no one tell her that today is like the day that she needs to be there? I mean, I know it's the beginning of the week. I mean, if Monday had a meme, it would be her. Can someone make a meme of her? I need to tell Ed Camille, because he does the best ones. He does the best like thumbnails. I need her picture. I need to get that on my phone. I need to get her picture. If anybody has that, send it to me. I will love you. I'm gonna have to do that, because that's funny. So do you guys remember in Alec Murdaugh's trial, the lady had the thing that went in her mouth and she talked into it the whole time and it was so weird? She needs one of those. This lady's done. Her hands probably are done typing. She's over it today. She's sleeping, I think. Good grief. It's 10:30 in the morning.
I'm really sure there is an opportunity
And she's rocking, I think.
for additional evidence to be put forth. I only brought that up because I saw in Mr. Kohberger's opposition to our motion for reconsideration that there was a mention of an expert witness. If that evidence was going to come forward or other evidence, we of course would want the opportunity to cross-examine that individual or whatever individuals might be testifying. But, you know, as things currently stand for the record as it exists and the evidence that the Media Coalition intends to put forward, we included a declaration with our motion. I'm not sure there's really need for us to put on additional evidence, but if that's something the court was going to hear from the state of Mr. Kohberger, then I just wanted to bring that to the court's attention.
Thank you, Mr. Corona. Of course, you'd have the opportunity to cross-examine any witness. All right. Well, we'll stay at 1:30 then. So now, Mr. Gray. So I'm thinking that maybe we should keep these things together and do them the same day if that works for you and your clients.
Well, Your Honor, I see the issue very clearly different from the AP's motion versus my motion. I think their motion is more of a getting rid of the non-dissemination order, the gag order. My motion is a motion to amend and or clarify some of the issues in the gag order. They have a lot of constitutional different issues that we have. I have some issues that I think are very separate. So I would request a hearing on my own much sooner. I think the court's aware I filed this motion in February on this case, and there was a massive delay based on the fact that previous Judge Marshall, was waiting for the Supreme Court to get some clarification regarding the AP's motion that she filed with the Supreme Court. So I'm ready to go when the court's ready to go, but I think our issues are very, very different than that of the AP's motion on this case. So I would request a hearing much sooner I can do it by the end of this week.
All right, well, and I recognize this was all pretty short notice for everybody. And I don't know if, let me go to Mr. Rudley and then Mr. Logsdon, because they're going to weigh in on that motion as well, I'm assuming. I'm thinking about maybe June 9th would be the soonest I could do this, but let me go to you, Mr. Logsdon.
Your Honor, we'd be ready to go and would expect to put on an evidentiary presentation that week of the 26th. To the extent that Mr. Gray wants to have his motion heard ahead of time, and just based on what I've read in it, I mean, obviously, if the court would agree with some of the things that he says.
Into the mic, I guess.
Sorry. Obviously, if the court were to agree with some of the things that he says and winds up amending the order, that could change everything for everybody else. So to some extent, I think it actually is probably better to do them all at the same time, so the court isn't in piecemeal changing what we're all arguing about. But I would be ready for the 9th if the court chose to do it that way.
No judge likes to do things piecemeal. But I also understand that Mr. Gray and his clients have been waiting for a long time now. It's not anybody's fault. It's just how that came down, because the Associated Press et al. Went straight to the Supreme Court in February, early February, and that would trigger a delay, which it did, and it was important, I think, for Judge Marshall to get the direction from the Idaho Supreme Court before we start, chipping away at each order. I don't know if would you be. I mean, I'm okay setting it for June 9th, Mr. Gray, but you may have some testimony happening. You may want to wait until you hear what everybody else is saying. It's likely that there's going to be some adjustments, you might say, or clarifying in the order. Partly in my reading of the Supreme Court's decision. Maybe I'm reading too much into it, but there were some hints maybe of what the trial court might want to consider. Okay? Go ahead, Mr. Gray.
Well, I was going to say, since this is your gag order now, this non-dissemination order, Your Honor, and in reading my motion, if the court does want to consider making some of the modifications that might have been suggested in my motion, my motion may end up being moot. I think some of my modifications and or clarifications to the non-dissemination order are fairly minor, but allows, and I think the Supreme Court did give some guidance, which I think added weight to my arguments and my motion. So it's not above the court to take a look at my motion as well as any other motions that have been submitted to the court and modify the non-dissemination order, allowing for some of the issues that I've discussed in my motion, and then you would only have the AP who are attacking, I think, the gag order as a whole, the non-dissemination order as a whole. I'm just addressing a couple of clarifications and amendments that would allow myself as an attorney to speak on behalf of my clients regarding the non-dissemination order. And I think it's your order now, so you're more than apt to be able to go and make those changes, and then we wouldn't have an issue with the non-dissemination order at all. So I don't think that's, so obviously the 9th, I'd like to keep the 9th, because my issues are very small and narrow regarding that non-dissemination order. But if you were to make changes to those ahead of time that I was able to review and it was acceptable, I would withdraw my motion, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Gray.
Thank you.
Well, it would be highly unlikely for me to change the order before I hear from counsel. Because I don't want it, you know, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th. I only want to do this once. And I'm happy to set it for June 9th, maybe 10:30. Does that work for you?
That does, Your Honor.
Okay. Does that work for you, Mr. Rudley?
Yes, Your Honor, it does.
Okay. Mr. Logston?
We'll make it work, Judge.
Okay. Let's do that in person. Okay. So now we have the June 9th at 10:30. We also have the Associated Press et al. On June 27th at 1:30. I think that works for you, Mr. Rudley?
It does, Your Honor.
Okay.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, excellent.
Your Honor, may I speak?
Yes, Mr. Corona.
Your Honor, I apologize. I may have misunderstood what you said earlier. I was understanding that the week of June 26th was when the court was first available, but if the court is available to hear our motion earlier, we would be available on June 9th as well. I know that our most recent motion is pending more recently, but obviously we've been challenging this since February as well. And it's our position that the non-dissemination order violates the Associated Press and Media Coalition's First Amendment rights. Those constitutional violations are irreparable, so we would like our motions to be heard as soon as possible as well. If I suggested otherwise, I agree with the week of the 26th. That was simply because I misunderstood that was when the court was first available.
Thank you. Only one thing I'll say about that. Irreparable harm goes both ways. And so I was a little bit troubled by that claim without considering the Sixth Amendment considerations. I mean, you know, this is a balancing. The law is clear on this. Okay? It's a balancing test. And when your client says that he's arguing it as the First Amendment is absolute, is also troubling. So I would suggest that maybe the Associated Press needs to tone it down, just ratchet down a little bit. Because some of the arguments, including the first line in the motion to intervene, says that the Supreme Court held a certain thing, that I do not think that is what the court held. And you know the difference in a holding of an appellate court. So I just felt obligated to help you out a little bit in terms of what the Associated Press is asking for. And in the meantime, there's a lot of potential irreparable harm from media that is affecting a fair trial. So that is really concerning. This is a very high-profile case. So I'm happy to set this on June 9th, too. Okay, how about we set yours at 1:30, though, so we don't kind of push them all together. Does that work for you, Mr. Rudley?
It does, Your Honor.
Okay, does that work for you, Mr. Logston?
Your Honor, I don't know if we'll have an evidentiary presentation ready by the 9th. That would be my only concern. We can certainly try, but
Well, let's see, and if that doesn't work out for you, then
we'll let you know.
we'll talk about it. Okay, I just felt the obligation to talk about irreparable harm. okay? There's a lot of interest here, Mr. Carone, and I think my job, my constitutional responsibility is to consider all of the potential irreparable harms or all the injuries or all the harms. So, I just want, maybe it's appropriate, I was just thinking, I just want to remind everybody, okay, on this particular issue, but all issues, at all times, that we all, okay, judges, lawyers, journalists, media generally, have constitutional responsibilities to both the First Amendment and the Sixth Amendment. And what I generally am seeing in the newspaper and the media is no discussion about the importance of the Sixth Amendment. It's just the First Amendment, which is very important. But here's the real reminder. The first sentence of the preamble of the Idaho Rules of Professional Conduct says that a lawyer, as a member of the legal profession, is a representative of clients, an officer of the legal system, and a public citizen having special responsibility for the quality of justice. We all have that responsibility. And sometimes we push in a hard way for our clients, and that's appropriate. But you have larger responsibilities at the same time. Okay, so we got a hearing 10:30. That's for the Gonzalez family with Mr. Gray. 1:30 is the Associated Press et al. With Mr. Carone. And I think that deals with all the pending motions. For you, Mr. Gray, you articulated what your motion is. So we've addressed that, correct?
Thank you, Your Honor. Yes,
Okay.
yes, Your Honor.
You're welcome. And Mr. Carone, those two issues that are still outliers on your clients, I think that's all we have. The motion to vacate the amended non-dissemination order and the motion to intervene. Anything else that we need to address for your clients? Mr. Carone?
No, Your Honor, unless you mentioned the broadcasting issue as well. I'm not sure if you're going to set a separate briefing schedule for that. Obviously, for the motions, they'll follow the briefing schedule wasn't going to follow that. I just didn't know when exactly you wanted that briefing.
I'm going to send a briefing schedule out for everybody. And now, okay, if we're going to do it on June 9th, you don't have very much time to do those briefs. So that's why I was thinking it made a lot more sense to do it at the end of June. But if you all think you're ready to do that, I'm willing to hear it. But I want those briefs. We'll say by June 2nd. Response briefs will be due by June 6th, and any reply briefs due by June 8th. So that's going to be rapid briefing. Just trying to accommodate everybody. Okay? I got a lot of interest floating around on these issues. Without forgetting Mr. Kohberger, who's primary in this case right now. All right, so let's move to, and I mean, anybody who's here for Associated Press or Gonzalez family can be excused if you'd like. You're also happy to have you stay. No problem.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, thank you, Mr. Carone. All right. So what we have now between the parties is motion to compel, which we're moving out. That was kind of a on and off hearing. Disclosures of grand jury materials while protecting those materials from the public. Extension time to file pre-trial motions after receiving materials from grand jury. I believe those are the motions that we have outstanding. Is this, are you arguing these or scheduling these, Ms. Taylor?
Your Honor, we can schedule all of those hearings.
Okay, when do you want me to do this?
Your Honor, I think that if the court has June 26th, we can do that. We will be ready to address that round of motions on June 26th.
Excellent. We'll have that 1:30 on June 27th because the Associated Press moved that to the 9th.
June 27th is just fine for us.
Okay, perfect. Well, at 1:30. Okay. Is there anything else we need to address today? Mr. Rudley? Mr. Thompson?
Your Honor, I think the June 27th should work fine. For whatever reason, our office hasn't seen copies of the grand jury, the pretrial motions, but I think there was a miscommunication. Those will be coming. We'll be prepared.
Okay, great. And certainly if those issues are resolved between counsel, then we won't have to have a hearing.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay? So anything else we need to address today, Ms. Taylor?
No, Your Honor, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Watson?
There, thank you.
Okay. Great. So I think Ms. Mastiff has been observing on Zoom. I just wanted to identify her, and also Ms. Let's see. Oh, I guess Ms. Beatty is too. So anyway, there are other people on the Zoom, so thank you. Okay, anything else then? No. Okay, thank you all.
Thank you,
We
Judge.
are adjourned.
I was trying to see if he was wearing leg shackles or not, but I think you could kind of hear him. I don't know though. But he didn't really. Maybe he's used to walking with them on. I don't know. That's what I've been wondering. I need to email Teresa. Make sure she's okay. I said I was going to do that earlier and I forgot. So I'm going to put it on my list. I had another list of something. I was going to write something else I want to do. Oh yeah, let me write that down really quick. I want to get all the court dates like that are coming up all together because I have a list, but this is getting old, so I need to redo our list. But so I didn't watch any of that beforehand. That was a big kind of like a nothing burger. I mean, I knew that they were gonna. I think that they're gonna keep it in place. I mean, I don't even know if they're gonna take. I don't even know if when they go June the 9th, if it'll even be lifted then. But then again, I don't know about if he's gonna argue. Maybe he will argue a different venue. But at the same time, it's like he wasn't from Moscow, and neither were any of the victims really. So you could take him and put him anywhere in the United States. It's going to be hard to find a jury, but they'll find one. They'll find an impartial jury. I mean, they found one for the grand jury. So there's like a motions hearing, they said, Michelle, scheduled for the 27th. I couldn't hear exactly what it was, but it was motions hearing. Will be the 27th. And then October the 2nd, they scheduled for trial. I believe they didn't change that since this morning. So let me see what else I had on here for you guys. Because I wanted to show you this Nancy Grace episode. This just came out like a little bit ago. It's on Fox Nation. So I looked it up. I was like, oh, nice. let's see. And I didn't watch it before coming on, so we're going to watch it together. It'll be fun. So I'm going to read what it's about. I'm going to read it off of her podcast because it doesn't have a description under her video. Well, we're going to watch the video version. But it says, and I'll share this tab with you so that way you know what I'm reading. It says, today's arraignment for Bryan Kohberger will be the first time the accused killer has been in court since his first initial appearance after his arrest. Kohberger was indicted last week as a grand jury found that there was sufficient evidence to move forward with formal charges. That evidence will not be revealed at this hearing. Kohberger will be required to enter a plea on the 5 charges against him, 4 counts of first-degree murder and 1 count of burglary. During the arraignment, the judge will reiterate Kohberger's rights and read the charges against him, asking for a plea on each charge. In Idaho, there are only 2 pleas, guilty or not guilty, and a date for trial will be set. She's going to be surprised. If Kohberger refuses to enter a plea or fails to appear, the court will enter a non-guilty plea on his behalf. Kohberger's attorney had repeatedly said his client looks forward to clearing his name. New information has been uncovered in the days before the arraignment. Bryan Kohberger was involved in another crime that happened before the student murders. They're talking about Dateline. This incident reportedly involved a female coworker at Washington State University, according to a Dateline report. Someone allegedly broke into the woman's apartment and moved things around. Instead of calling police, the coworker called Kohberger, who suggested and helped her install security cameras. The report said Kohberger was behind that break-in and used those cameras to spy on her. So we will be watching this. So if you guys don't mind smashing that like button, if you like true crime and that's your thing, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. I'm going to try not to interrupt Nancy too much, as she talks, because it's hard to get a good pausing point with her. But I thought this would be good to watch. And it's better than the podcast version because we don't have to just listen to it.
In just moments, we expect Bryan Kohberger, charged in the murders, the brutal murders of 4 beautiful University of Idaho students, will be in a court of law to enter a plea. Why? Because in the last days, a grand jury, a secret grand jury, has met and handed down a true bill, indictments. But that's not enough for Bryan Kohberger, because in the last days we also learned that Bryan Kohberger, remember the PhD, the doctoral student in criminal justice, apparently installed surveillance video cameras in a female colleague's home that he could tap into any time he wanted. Let me throw a technical legal term at you. Perv! I'm Nancy Grace. This is Crime Stories. Thank you for being with us here at Fox Nation and SiriusXM 111. First of all, take a listen to our friends at KREM.
So I just got off the phone with the Latah County District Court Clerk's office. They told me a grand jury indicted Bryan Kohberger on all counts. That means the grand jury found there was enough evidence in the case for it to go to trial. Now, Kohberger will have his arraignment on Monday at 9 o'clock in the morning. That is where he will likely enter his plea of either guilty or not guilty. This grand jury process replaces the preliminary hearing process that was scheduled for the end of June.
That's what we know right now, and more from our friends at ABC.
Just hours away from Bryan Kohberger's official arraignment for the murders of Kaylee Gonsalves, Madison Mogan, Xana Kernodle, and Ethan Chapin, the 28-year-old suspect facing 4 counts of murder in the first degree after his indictment by a Latah County grand jury.
Right now, although we seem to have mounting evidence against Mr. Kohberger, it's still anyone's game because there's a lot of information that the defense is going to hold and not release to the public.
Kohberger is expected to plead not guilty. Authorities allege Kohberger orchestrated and carried out the deadly attack and then returned to work, pursuing his PhD in criminology before making a cross-country trip home to Pennsylvania with his father.
a lot of evidence the defense is going to withhold and keep private. What does the defense have in their back pocket? Any more women with surveillance cameras in their bathroom, in their den, in their kitchen, in their bedroom? With me, an all-star panel to make sense of what we know right now. First of all, I want to go out to Tara Malik out of Idaho, the jurisdiction where Kohberger is about to be arraigned, former state federal prosecutor, and you can find Tara at smithmalik.com. Tara, thank you for being with us. An arraignment. It sounds confusing. It's not. The defendant is brought over from jail. If they are on bond, they get a summons and they come to court, or else they're in bond forfeiture. And they are taken to a podium. Their attorneys are with them, and they are read their formal charges. And at that time, they enter a plea of guilty or not guilty. If they won't speak, their lawyer can enter the plea for them. And if they refuse to do that, then the judge will enter a not guilty plea on their behalf. What do you expect at the arraignment? You're a veteran trial lawyer. What about it, Tara?
Well, I think we are going to see a very boring process, most likely. He's going to show up with his attorney, Ann Taylor. He'll enter a guilty or not guilty plea. You know, he may have some interesting body language. It'll be interesting to say if he has any facial expressions during the hearing, but it'll be rather straightforward, like you said, Nancy.
You know, Chris McDonough joining me, director of the Cold Case Foundation, former homicide detective, host of The Interview Room, and you can find him at thecoldcasefoundation.org. Chris, thank you for being with us. I have not found one thing about this investigation to be the least bit routine, boring, as expected. Nothing has happened the way one would expect it to happen. And that's after, I guess, I handled close to 10,000 cases, either investigating, pleading out, trials. When you're in a major metropolitan city, handling felonies day in, day out, that's not unheard of. There will be many other people most likely on the arraignment list. Typically, well, in big cities, you'll have arraignments throughout the week. We would typically have them twice a week with 150 new cases on the arraignment calendar each day. So when I talk about what's happening at arraignment, this could be special set for Kohberger, just Kohberger, but you never know what Kohberger is going to do. Would you agree with that, McDonough?
Absolutely, Nancy, and we have been talking about this right on your show for months now, and every opportunity that he gets, it is always a surprise in relationship to if it's his legal team, you know, putting the affidavits together to kind of circumvent the gag order. We now find out that information, was pretty much a tactic. And now we have this other information that's floated to the top. It won't surprise me if he, raises his eyebrows just for the attention, because he needs that attention. It's part of his makeup right now. You know,
it's another interesting thing, and I'm going to go back out to Tara Malik, high-profile lawyer, joining us out of the Kohberger jurisdiction of Idaho. For so long, we were told there was going to be a preliminary hearing, and I started screaming at the get-go, don't do it, don't do it, don't do a preliminary hearing, because a preliminary hearing serves the same function as a grand jury proceeding, which is held in private. Do we have to say the name O.J. Simpson preliminary hearing, which was a huge circus? The state's witnesses were really not ready to undergo cross-examination as if they were at a jury trial. A preliminary hearing, a grand jury hearing, is just to put enough evidence up for a judge to say, yes, I see there's an issue of fact. You brought on this evidence, such as the DNA found on the knife sheath that matches Kohberger. Kohberger says he wasn't there, he's not guilty, so that's an issue of fact, and the jury is the sole judge of the facts. That's all it's supposed to be. But somehow, preliminary hearings somehow get out of control every single time they happen, Tara.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, every time you open it up into this full kind of adversarial process, you're going to have things happen that happen during trial. You can't predict perfectly what every witness is going to say. You don't know what the defense will try and elicit out of them. So I think the best way to go in these types of cases is grand jury proceeding. There's no reason why you shouldn't do a grand jury. Like you said, it's in private. The defense gets a transcript of it later on. They can attack it if they think the prosecutor did something wrong. So there's still that due process element. But to open it up to this full adversarial, you're going to get the same issues that are kind of coming up or started to come up in Kohberger, where defense is going to demand all sorts of information prior to the preliminary hearing and move to compel that information. We haven't even gotten to discovery really yet.
Yeah, and when Tara Malik is saying discovery, what that means is that before you go to trial, strike a jury, start putting up evidence, the state has to hand over, for instance, all scientific reports like DNA, fingerprints, fibers, shoe prints, anything that went to the lab. They have to hand over defendant statements. They have to hand over names and addresses of all the witnesses, plus a witness list. All that has to be handed over by the state to the defense. And in many jurisdictions, the defense has to hand over limited information to the state. So nobody is ambushed at trial. So it's truly a trial based on the evidence, not on ambush techniques. Guys, this is what's happening right now. Kohberger expected in a courtroom at any minute to enter a plea of guilty or not guilty, to have his charges formally read out loud in a court of law. We're probably going to hear a flurry of motions announced. The defense, I'm sure, is going to want a slew of motions to be heard. And then we began setting down the groundwork for the trial. We are also learning at this hour that Kohberger is now accused of planting video cameras that he could access in a female colleague's place. But first, take a listen to Erin McLaughlin, NBC.
Bryan Kohberger, the man charged with stabbing 4 college students to death, now indicted by a grand jury. The indictment includes 4 counts of murder in the first degree and 1 count of burglary. If found guilty, he could be sentenced to death. Kohberger has yet to enter a plea, but his previous attorney said he believes he'll be exonerated. The indictment follows his December arrest at his family home in Pennsylvania. More than 45 days after Maddie Mogen, Kaylee Gonsalves, Xana Kernodle, and Ethan Chapin were found brutally murdered in this college house.
KREM reporting that the victims' families have issues with what's happening right now. Listen.
Ray says he found out about the indictment. Up until then, he says the Gonsalves family has been preparing to see Kohberger in June, a timeline he already had a problem with.
Once you've charged someone with an information, you're normally at preliminary hearings within a couple weeks out. And they said 6 months out. And I don't think that really was that's hard for a victim's families, for all the victims' families, that's hard.
To Dr. Joni Johnson joining us, forensic psychologist, private investigator, performs assessments on violent offenders, and is the author of Serial Killers, 101 Questions True Crime Fans Ask. Dr. Joni Johnson, thank you for being with us. I hear what the victims are saying. It seems as if they were preparing to attend the preliminary hearing. Instead, there is a grand jury proceeding that's already happened, which I think is in the best interest of the state and the victims' families. And they say that this is difficult. Here's the reality. The grand jury move was the best thing strategically for the state and for the victims' families. I think basically anything at this juncture is going to be really hard on the victim's family, talking about the murders, having to see Kohberger in court, going to a preliminary, hearing that there's been a grand jury indictment. Anything is going to be hard for them because they're having the worst time that they will ever have in their lives.
You're absolutely right. And I think that just shows probably the disconnect between what is best strategically from a legal standpoint and what the family's feeling. And you're absolutely right. I mean, this is the worst case scenario. They've had no control over anything in their lives. They've lost the most important people in their lives. And now they're getting surprised, and so nothing is going to feel good. Everything is going to be painful. And I'm sure every bump in the road for them, and of course, a surprise is going to be a bump in the road. No matter how much the big picture says, yes, this is the best thing, it must feel like, once again, the rug is being pulled out from under them.
Yeah, this is a lose-lose scenario for the state because no matter what they do, it's going to hurt the victims, their feelings, their emotions, and there's no way around it. I want to play that one more time, exactly what the victims, and this is specifically the Gonsalves family, they are the ones speaking out against what's happening. Listen.
Ray says he found out about the indictment. Up until then, he says the Gonsalves family has been preparing to see Kohberger in June, a timeline he already had a problem with.
Once you charge someone with on an information, you normally preliminary hearings within a couple weeks out. And they said 6 months out. And I don't think that really was that's hard for a victim's families, for all the victims' families, that's hard.
Okay, someone is not explaining this properly to the victim's family. Number one, and Tara, jump in if I've got the Idaho law incorrectly. An information is when a prosecutor gets their notepad all on their own, and they went, okay, I've read the police report. I'm charging Kohberger with 4 counts of murder. And that's the formal charge. You don't want that. Yes, it's acceptable in a court of law, but you don't want that on appeal. A grand jury is much more reliable. A grand jury of, say, 30 or 40 people hearing the evidence and hearing witnesses is much more reliable and solid on appeal when it's being attacked by a defense lawyer than a single prosecutor going, I think I'll go with murder and 4 counts. No, don't do that. So initially drawing this up as an information was basically a placeholder. I think they knew all along they were going to have a grand jury. So that needs to be explained to the family. We want a conviction as victims' families. We want a conviction that will hold up on appeal, not a quick answer that will do for today. We want something lasting that is tried and true, that can stand the test of fire on appeal when it is questioned and poked and prodded. So the state absolutely did the right thing, not proceeding on what is called an information or an informational. They went to a grand jury. Now, again, the reason not to have a preliminary hearing is because it subjects your witnesses to cross-examination far in advance of the jury trial. Why do that? Why put them through that? And why show the defense your whole playbook at a preliminary hearing? Again, does anybody remember, Chris McDonough, do you remember the Orenthal James Simpson preliminary hearing? It truly was like a circus. There should have been one witness, the lead detective, who can speak hearsay at a grand jury. And that's okay at a grand jury. Instead, it turned into a debacle. We don't want a debacle in the Kohberger trial.
100% agree with you, Nancy, that, in the OJ trial, as we remember, you're 100% right. It did turn into, just this unbelievable flow of information going.
I just want to let you guys know that my power is flickered twice, but I don't think it's going to go out or anything. It's not raining or anything here, but I just want to let you know. And look how good I got Nancy closed her eyes. But I just wanted to let you guys know because I was like, did I see that? And then I saw it again. So I was like, oh yeah, I did see that. Oh, thank you, Rich. He said for a new chair. Thank you. My chair's not even actually that old. That's the funny thing. I have to start my camera. It's just not comfortable. And I stood up and the sides of my ass was hurting. I went to grab a drink and I was like, Vincent, I could barely walk out there. I was like, I've been in this chair too long today. So before trial starts, we get me a new chair, y'all. We're going to recycle this bad boy. And I'm just going to need like a lot of padding or something. I don't know. Maybe like one of those massage chairs, like the ones that are like zero gravity. I better start saving. They're like expensive. They're like a car payment. But I'll go ahead and get it back to Nancy. If you guys wouldn't mind hitting that thumbs up button, it really does help the channel. If you wouldn't mind subscribing to the channel, we're trying to get it to 10,000 Titans, and then we're going to do our next giveaway. And we're like under 2,000 from there, so getting very close.
In one way, and I think one of the challenges that the PD has had here, I mean, from an investigative aspect, is they really do need to assign a liaison. I don't know if they have or haven't, but it sounds like they haven't. And, you got to do that immediately when these high profile things go, take place. And you got to get everybody in the same room and say, look, we need to go into that courtroom and, arm in arm with the district attorney. I mean, how many families have you seen in your career, Nancy, where you're fighting the family and you're trying to fight the defendant at the same time?
That is awful, Chris McDonough. The family needs to be in lockstep with the prosecutor. And that is not the family's responsibility. You're right. There needs to be a liaison, because you remember what I just played you from the Gonsalves family lawyer, Gray? Gray found out about the indictment through an email. That's all wrong right there. The prosecutor or the liaison that you're referring to should have called the family look and said, look, we're having a grand jury, and this is why. This is the best thing. Because I've been screaming since day one, they do not need to do a preliminary hearing. N-O. Just fraught with danger. Guys, that's not the only thing happening in the news right now regarding Kohberger as we wait for him to come into the courtroom. Let's take a listen to our friend Kelly Beeson.
Bryan Kohberger was involved in another crime that happened before these murders. Now, this incident involved his female co-worker at Washington State University, where someone allegedly broke into the woman's apartment and moved things around. Instead of calling police, the co-worker called Kohberger, who suggested and helped her install security cameras. But the report says Kohberger was behind that break-in and used those cameras to spy on her.
It just gets worse. It's not that he just helped install these security video cameras. They actually think he faked a break-in to get her to get the cameras. It's very intricate in the planning. Joining me right now, crimeonline.com investigative reporter Nicole Parton. You can find her on Twitter at Nicole Parton. Nicole, what happened?
So Nancy, Bryan Kohberger, he befriended this colleague of his at Washington State University, and then it's alleged that he went to her home, broke into her home, and would move things around. He didn't steal anything, but imagine going into your home and now your sofa is moved from one place to the other, or your phone, or things that you've had placed in a particular spot are moved around. It spooked the lady. So she comes back to work and she talks to her friend Bryan, and he, of course, suggests that he come over and he saved the day. When he got there, his suggestion was surveillance. You need cameras installed in your home, and guess what? I'm the guy for the job. I can install those. It's alleged that he installed the security surveillance videos, and because he had access now to the passwords and to her Wi-Fi, he was able to log in and spy on her throughout her home.
I just was thinking about this, about this girl, and she supposedly, calling Kohberger over. If I came into my house, if I were to come into my house and something was moved, I'm telling you, if it was my iPad, just that, I would know immediately that it was moved. That's just coming from an OCD and a blind person's perspective, because everything has its spot. But I feel like, and look at her face. I love Nancy. Oh my God, her face. I can't even think now. I didn't know I paused it right there. Oh my Lord, have mercy. But if I was that girl, I can't even look at her. But if I was that girl, I would be calling the police because and the apartment management. If something was just moved around in my apartment, I would think it could be like the building maintenance that has like a key to my apartment. I wouldn't necessarily think that somebody broke into my apartment to steal something if things were just moved around and nothing was actually taken. Do you know what I mean? Like, I understand, like, Bryan Kohberger was this PhD student in the criminology program, blah, 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 blah. But it's not like he worked for the police station. He didn't even get the job there. So, like, yeah, oh, you know, like, oh, if a pen gets moved around, you will freak out. Ivy, I'm the same way. Vincent's the best. I don't know how he deals with me because being blind and having OCD, it's like a whole other ballpark. Like, if I don't put, like, if I have this pen and I don't put it back where, like, where I've got it, it's something in my head. It makes me go batshit crazy immediately. You guys know when I lost my AirPods, I came out here and I told you guys, I go crazy when I lose things. So I would know. I think I would notice is what I would think. But let me know what you guys think. I don't know if, like, I think it was a lot of stuff that was moved. But I wonder how much stuff like would have to be moved for you guys to notice that someone was in your house. Because some people, they live in their home, you know, I mean, like you should, you know, and like, you know, you like, I consider like a lived in home, like, you know, like a little messy. You live in it. You have like a live in home. Mine is not. Mine's like a freaking showcase house. I'm like, do I need to like go change the trash again today for this third time? Like, I'm weird. But if anyone ever stayed with me, it'd be like staying at a hotel. Do you think she was fooled by his manipulation? Maybe. Man, I just love Nancy's face. I need this on a cup. A coffee cup. But I feel like I think I would call the police. If not, like, you know, because if I didn't have a significant other, I would definitely call the police. Or my brother. Like, and the police. I would make a report. I would definitely make a report. You know, you just always have to have a report. Just look at Nancy's face, Eddie. That's what we were looking at. Oh, look at her shining bright. Love her.
Every person in this studio is making a face right now, an ick, horrible face. And it's very, very, I believe, probative, proves something, Chris McDonough, that this alleged incident of him moving the woman's objects around inside of her apartment to make her afraid, then she comes and tells him at work, and just as he is expected, he expects this scenario to happen, he then, as Nicole Parton says, saves the day and goes, let's install video cams. Finish that sentence, so I can snoop and spy on you and watch you change clothes and take a shower whenever I feel like it. Here's the critical part as it relates to the 4 murders. This incident allegedly took place just a few months before the 4 murders. So, what does that mean to you, to Chris McDonough?
Well, there's a high probability this is information that indicates pre-incident behavior. And, you know, a leopard doesn't lose its spots, right, Nancy? I mean, we've talked about this. You've talked about this. You've stood on that driveway, look through those windows in the back of that house. And I think you and I both had the same feeling of, oh my gosh, this is so exposed here. And now we learn that he potentially allegedly used, you know, his cloud-based technology skills to go into a colleague's house and up the ante, as Greg Cooper says. And it just makes it just puts chills down your spine of what other incidents are we going to learn about that this guy was, you know, really deep into his planning. And the fact that he could move those items around potentially, if it's him, and have that control over her. And then ultimately we now get to the homicides within a month or two after this particular incident's reported.
Many would argue the installing of the cameras and the spying on the woman in various states of undress, puttering around her apartment, doing whatever people do in private, was simply a step in the progression leading up to the 4 murders, where many people believe he spied on the 3 female victims, ended up killing a 4th as well, Ethan Chapin. But the progression, the step in the progression. Guys, take a listen to our friend at NBC, Keith Morrison.
Our source says Kohberger had befriended a woman in his graduate criminology cohort. The woman had returned to her apartment one evening and found some things amiss. Items moved from where she'd left them. In the kitchen. In the bath. Quite bizarre. So
I'm just going to pause this for a second. I'm sorry that I have to pause it, but that background music that you hear that's really nothing, it'll zap me. It'll copyright me. That stupid background music. I hate the Dateline background music. So that's why I'm pausing it, just for precaution. I normally wouldn't pause it, but they'll probably get me anyway, but we'll try it.
Oh, what did she do?
But just listen to the back. You might not have even noticed that there was any music playing before, but that's the stuff that they get you on YouTube. That's the dumbest thing. I might as well be playing Nicki Minaj right now.
Well, our source tells us that since Loving had been taken, the woman did not call the police. Instead, she called her new friend, Bryan Kohberger, who, our source says, volunteered to come over and take a look, and he soon recommended the installation of a video security system, and he, Kohberger, volunteered to do the work.
I mean, Dr. Joni Johnson, forensic psychologist, can you believe that?
Well, unfortunately, I can believe that. I mean, it just speaks to so many things about him in terms of his deviousness and his ability to act. I mean, this is somebody who befriends a coworker and pretends to be this nice guy, sets up a situation where she's vulnerable, and then takes advantage of it. And I think it definitely does speak to him progressing. I mean, this is a guy who, even when he was an undergraduate, people were saying he was staring at them. And there was issues of stalking and those kinds of things, and potentially going to the victims' homes and looking in. I mean, this is somebody who just really does get off on being in control. And people don't even have to know that he's in control. It's enough for him to know it.
Guys, take a listen to our friends at NBC. This is Keith Morrison.
After the installation, our source says police believe Kohberger, if he was close enough to the woman's apartment, could pull up the cameras himself for a look, because Kohberger knew the woman's Wi-Fi password. Our source tells us that Bryan Kohberger is now considered a strong suspect in the break-in. Hearing that, retired FBI profiler Greg Cooper offers this theory.
What does that say to you? I would expect that he orchestrated the whole thing.
Okay, orchestrating a break-in, not to take anything, but to manipulate items, move them around inside his female colleague's apartment, knowing she would come tell him about it, and he could offer to put in a surveillance system. Joining me right now is Bill Daly, former FBI investigator and expert in forensic photography, security expert. Bill Daly, have you ever heard anything like this?
Well, Nancy, unfortunately, yes. I mean, it is something that over the years, not let's say specifically with somebody manipulating someone, but people going in and putting cameras in to be observing individuals and doing that in a way that doesn't suggest there was a crime preceding it, meaning that in this case, he didn't go in and rob the apartment, which would have, as mentioned in the story just a few minutes ago, would have precipitated more police involvement, but yet relied on him then as kind of this kind of savior to come in and allegedly, help this individual. So I have heard of cases and have worked on cases in the past where there have been surreptitious placement of cameras for various purposes. And so it's not surprising that in this particular case, and I'm going to kind of draw a little bit on from my friends in the behavioral science part of the FBI, but this does demonstrate and could demonstrate leakage. Leakage in this phase is really talking about kind of this progression, this kind of behavioral kind of progression towards potentially those crimes that took place involving these students. So I think what we're all talking about here is that it's not just creepy, it's not just unsettling, but it does go to a kind of a state of mind and a manner in which he would behave by perhaps watching someone at a distance. And maybe that also ties into some of the reports, Nancy, that we heard of him canvassing the home of the victims and doing some observation remotely, and is not having actually been there to know what the layout of the floor plan was.
You just mentioned not just creepy, not just unsettling. I agree. In fact, I find it probative, because if you really analyze what he's accused of doing, Bill Daly, you see a fingerprint. You see a similar modus operandi, method of operation. Watching your victim at a distance, driving close enough to her home, her apartment, to be part of her Wi-Fi, logging in, possibly from remote, to watch her whenever he felt like it, preying on someone he knew, much as he thought he knew the victims at University of Idaho, from contacting them digitally, spying on them, showing up at a restaurant where they work, being around them. The victims, also young females, likely similar in appearance and age, in the same area, in a similar housing situation, connected to him tangentially, that he stalks. In my
Nancy,
mind, it's an outright similar transaction.
Yep. Can I share a thought?
Jump in,
Nancy?
Chris.
So, right, this is all in behavior very consistent with obviously this possession, right? And it's kind of the buildup for them. I mean, there's I've talked to suspects that post-incident, it's almost as if, you know, the most exciting part was not necessarily the kill, but it was building up to that kill. And one of the things that we talked about on your show a while ago was the fact that the first thing the defense did when they went into that house, remember what they took, the first thing? That smart TV, okay? And that's on their affidavit. And the cops stood there and said, okay, all they did, you know, they took receipts, they took a couple other things, but they took that TV out of there. That makes one wonder, what do they know? And what's on that TV? I know they did a hard drive dump on it through the what's it called, the Firefox or whatever, the Amazon stick or something to that effect. So they did a hard dive or a dump on it, but they got that TV. And so you and I have talked about this. You just wonder what in the world, you know, was he really doing from his own apartment that his team comes in and says, let's get this quickly.
I want to give let me just say, I want to refresh your recollection as it relates to what this is all about. This is about Ethan Chapin, Madison Mogen, Xana Kernodle, and Gilly Gonsalves. Kelly, Xana, Madison, and Ethan lost their lives brutally. With me, Dr. Jan Gorniak, renowned medical examiner, joining us out of Clark County Office of the Medical Examiner. That's Las Vegas. Dr. Gorniak, could you remind us of the brutality inflicted on these 4 young, possibly sleeping university students?
You know, you keep going back to the OJ trial, right? And when I first heard about this, I too, along with other people, was surprised that one person was able to accomplish, you know, these injuries on all these people, whether they were sleeping or not. I'm just imagining how stealth he was getting into the house, and just brutally, incised wounds, stab wounds, sharp force injuries on these young victims. And I just can't imagine, obviously, knowing that the brutality that he was able to inflict on each of these young people without any fight back, if that makes any sense. And like I said, I was shocked that one person was able to do this.
The degree of brutality was immeasurable. What were the injuries these 4 victims sustained, Dr. Gorniak?
They had multiple sharp force injuries. So when you talk about stab wounds and size wounds, so obviously in cases like this, it's just a lot of blood loss. So, like I said, it's unimaginable that they could have all these wounds about their body without being able to wake up or fight back. It must have been so fast. I'm just trying to figure out how fast and rapid it could have been to be able to injure these young people like that.
Take a listen. Go ahead,
I'm sorry,
Dr. Gorniak.
And it's interesting because I hear you talking about the preliminary hearing versus a grand jury. And actually, from where I sit, because as an independent witness, even though most of the times we are called by the prosecutor, but I myself prefer the preliminary hearing as an expert, because then you know where the defense is coming from. And it's interesting to see how where different players in the whole legal system sit and how we approach it differently. So
Dr. Gorniak,
yes.
I understand what you're saying as a witness at trial.
Yep.
That you want to know what's going to happen, and you can at trial, and you can find that out at the preliminary trial on your own cross-examination. But most witnesses, Dr. Gorniak, I know, and I'm not even being a tiny bit sarcastic. Dr. Gorniak, most of us are just mere mortals that probably would not hold up to cross-examination as well as you. And as a prosecutor, I don't want to put let's just say, a fearful witness, an easily intimidated witness, an easily confused witness up on the stand so the defense can have not one but 2 cracks at them, at preliminary and
the trial.
And the trial. You would make, child's play of a defense lawyer on cross-exam. I'd like to see that cross-exam myself. I get a bag of popcorn for that. But for most witnesses, you don't want to subject them to 2 cross-exams.
And that's what I would say. I mean, so for me, as like you said, as the witness, absolutely. But I can only imagine as someone who's intimately involved in the case, how mentally challenging and, devastating that could have lasting effects.
I mean, having testified, Dr. Gorniak, at my fiance's murder trial, I know I wouldn't want to do it twice. I absolutely would not want to do it twice.
I agree. And so I see both sides. And I just want to share that.
What's interesting, but jumping off what Dr. Gorniak just said, Chris McDonough, I'm just thinking about what the witnesses are going to have to go through at the actual trial. But I'm thinking about this female witness, the colleague that was tricked into having Bryan Kohberger, of all people, install a security system in her home, the video cameras. You know what, Chris McDonough, think about it. It was building in him even at that time. This is just like a tiny taste of what he was capable of. She should thank her lucky stars, thank heaven, that she was not murdered, this female colleague of his.
Yeah, absolutely. And, so when we think through that, he is fantasizing in relationship to, the big event. As Dr. Gary Bricotto says, he's eventually going to get to the place where he's the Punisher. And, imagine having her sit in that prelim and in front of him, not knowing what he's thinking about her while she's on that stand. Remember in the OJ trial, Barry Scheck had the criminalist Fong on the stand, and every time, he didn't say he put 2 sets of pairs of gloves on, Barry Scheck would say, "What about that, Mr. Fong?" And that resonated through the law enforcement community back in that time, because I was there, where we all started talking about not getting fonged. And
Oh my goodness, I've never heard that before. I remember, what about that, Mr. Fong? But I've never heard about not getting fonged. I'm hearing right now everyone is headed to the courtroom for the formal arraignment. We'll bring it to you as we hear it. Goodbye, friend.
Goodbye, friend. I missed something, I think, in the chat. Did I miss anything? Oh my lordy, Kelly D. Oh wow, I did miss something. Good lordy. Well, then you know what it's like firsthand to have somebody, that's addicted. So let me ask you guys this. Do you guys think that at the time that Bryan was arrested, do you think that he was back on the sauce? Do you think he was doing drugs? Personally, I personally don't think that he was on hard stuff at all. I don't even think he was smoking at all. Usually if you're going to quit, you quit everything, but I don't know. I don't think that he was. I think that he would look a little, I think he would have acted a little differently if he was like strung out on like heroin. Because that's what his drug was. His drug was heroin. Like, that's no joke. They give you some hydrazine in the county jail. If you're stressed out, if you have anxiety like me, that no narcotic in the world can suppress my anxiety, they would give me hydrazine. That would be like giving me a baby aspirin when I have to get Botox done. Like, it wouldn't touch it. So I don't know. I just think I think he was clean. But I don't know. I was just wondering what you guys thought. Because I know a lot of people, think that maybe he was. So. Your eyes don't look like that if you're not on something, Ashley said. I think he has hooded eyes or something. There is something crazy with his eyes. It's like they're hooded, so I think that they look even wider than they should look. Yeah, his days are numbered, yeah. Well, especially if you plea, if you do a silent plea, I just can't get over it. And I know a lot of people are going to be like, well, he's allowed to do that. That's his constitutional right. Well, hell yeah, it is. But if you are innocent of something and you're not guilty, it's your constitutional right. It's your right for your own self to say and stand up and say, I am not guilty of these charges. And when you sit there and you are silent, ooh, silence can kill. That's a saying, really. I mean, it can. Look, Bryan's right there with the eyes. Scared me. Scared me. I didn't put on my orange jumpsuit. You think he was on something when he committed murder? Maybe like a downer. And actually, I wasn't kidding about the drugs in the hospital for the surgery. Let him know. Boo Thang, happy birthday, Boo Thang. Also, Boo Thang, surgery you're gonna do great tomorrow. Oh my gosh, surgery, you're gonna be like, that was surgery. I'm ready to go hang out and like do whatever you do after, like, I promise, yeah. I've had a lot of surgeries. Just take it easy, but I've had a lot of surgeries done, and I don't know. I'm probably a crazy person, but I'm always like, after surgery, mine's usually just the eye, so no cutting. So usually just, very minimal there. But I'll be at like the grocery store afterwards and stuff. And my friends were with me one time because they had to drive me home before it was at Vincent. And they're like, Tanya, you got to go home and like sit down. And I'm like, no, I'm cool. Let's go. I was like, I need to go grocery shopping. So I'm telling you, if she's anxious when she gets in there, when the anesthesiologist comes in and he's like, I'm going to give you something to calm you down, say, I'm really anxious. maybe they'll give her a little more then. But if they don't within like 10 minutes and she's not feeling it, call them right back and be like, I am not feeling this at all. Because they always give me double dose when I go. I think they know I'm just really high strung and they're like, just get her sedated. But I mean, I've even had surgeries where I've been awake for them. Hypnotic surgeries. And those, I would never do that again. Not on my eye. I did it on my teeth too, but that wasn't as bad. Baby aspirin put you to sleep. One whole day, when I get my lip fillers, I need a whole bunch of anesthesia to be able to sit still. Oh, that's how I would be. I had to have, so I had to get, what is it called? Laser for my scars on my legs, on my face, like right here, like I have a scar. I don't know. I'll have to show it to you guys one day. And then there's one under my eye, but you can't see it because they lasered it. And then my arm and then my legs. But they did a great job. But they're like, it's going to feel like little rubber bands. No, it didn't. It felt like tattoos being put into scar tissue because I've had a tattoo put in scar tissue. I'm like, that's exactly what it felt like. You're allergic to all pain meds, Cheryl? Oh, Lord mercy. What do you do in that predicament? Oh my gosh. Yeah, well, I was under, so I did a hypnotic surgery for my eye, my last surgery with my surgeon, my main surgeon. I think it was something she wanted to try out and I was there for it. We listened to Bruno Mars, Uptown Funk. So, you know. Oh my gosh, are you gonna be mean to Summer? I blocked him. I was trying to block them. I think I accidentally unblocked that person the other day on accident. I'm so sorry for that. I did that. That's why I was like, Bri. But then when I said that, I was like, wait, this doesn't make sense in my head. And I was trying to block them, but I kept going to your message because you said Bri with the flags, and the flags kept catching my attention, so I couldn't block them. He said, I've got your snowflake bitch. I love that comment. Best comment it goes to. This is why I have the camera off, guys, a lot of times, because you guys do this to me in the chat. And how are we supposed to be serious over here? We're true crime. But at the end, we're not true crime anymore. We're just us. So that's why we're funny at the end. We gotta laugh at the end. You have to laugh. If you don't have some laughter and some comedic relief. But because I was going through and I'm like, I was trying to just make sure I didn't block anybody. And I think I accidentally unblocked that person the other day. I unblocked someone else too, but they haven't been in here. I forget who it was, though. But I told you guys who it was. I forget who it was, though. Man, that was good. I was like trying to block the person. And Summer was too fast. That was good. Oh my gosh, I'm laughing too hard. My face is already red as it is. And I don't know why my face looks so much darker. But Vincent said I looked really dark today. So I was only out for an hour. He told me last week I was too pale. Make up your mind. He was like, you need to put sunscreen on your face. And I'm like, little Asian man that has perfect skin, told you start with me. He does. He's flawless. Flawless. Beautiful skin. Thank you, Cheryl. I know. Look at that, 8,000. We're doing so good. We're like already over the 20 or 30 maybe hump now. And I'm proud of you, Summer. You stood up for yourself. I'm sorry that person came back in. They were mean to you the last time, so I'm sorry about that. I love that you say that. Oh, man. Debbie Lucas. Man, that was funny. You are a gangster. You're worried he might represent himself. Oh, I don't know. He might. Oh, you saw when he first came in, Jan, and tried to get her attention. Man, people do that. Like, you know. Debbie said, I give up. I was getting what you were trying to say. I'm the same way. There's actually something I was going to ask you guys about the video. Oh, I don't even know. I'll save it for another day since we're already out of the zone. But yeah, we did an hour and 40 minutes. So we did pretty long lives today. We had a live this morning. If you weren't there to witness that live, we have it. You know, it's fun. I was right. I will say Bryan Enton was the first in line at the courthouse today. I thought Nancy would be there too. And I was like, he's going to beat Nancy. I was like, I have full faith in Bryan Enton. And he really did bring the coverage. We were bringing it before WFLA was. I was like, dude, I said that a minute ago. Because I kept refreshing that page. Y'all had me scared in here. Y'all were like, is there an update? And I'm like, you guys weren't even that bad. It was me. I was like, refresh. Because I didn't want you guys to miss one moment. It's so hard when it's not live, so. Yes, one who represents themselves has a fool for a client. Yeah, I don't think that he should try to do that. He has no law background. Criminology all day, but no law background. He's only been probably pulled over he's probably been pulled over a lot, but he's probably never seen the inside of a courtroom up until now. You know, so he probably doesn't even know how court proceedings maybe work. Because I went to school for criminal justice and I don't remember learning about court proceedings. Maybe we did, but I mean, I'm sitting here with y'all right now and I'm still learning them. With, Alec Murdaugh, Letitia Stow trial, Lori Vallow. Now we're going into all these new ones. So we have so many more to cover. We have Delphi, Richard Allen, which I said I'm going to try to go to opening statements for that. At least, and I told Vincent today, I was like, I'm going to try to do like opening statements or and closing arguments. And then if I think that, there'll be a verdict, I'll try to stick around because it's about 3.5 hours for me. So I can maybe probably should make that trip. But I don't want to promise anything until it's I know exactly when his court date is for sure. Because, if they're going to open it for the public anyway, that is. And then Diana Kojakari, which is Madalena's mom, will be going back. Sarah Boone, Leilani Simon. Just reading the list. And then we have some new cases, so. You had to go sit in courtrooms, Mindy? I've been on a court before once, but I couldn't remember. I don't remember exactly how the trial process went. Even now, this is all brand new because Kohberger's, they went to a grand jury and then they went to, him standing silent. And it's wait a minute, that's not what happened. Last jury, it was, she pled guilty, but by reason of insanity. And then Alec was not guilty. He was pleading not guilty. So it's just very different. I feel like each case, so. Well, I hope that our person doesn't come back to the chat. They can go somewhere else. If I see them in another chat, I will make sure that I keep my eye out on them and be like, they're bad peoples. So thank you guys so much for joining me tonight. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like the video, and I'll see you guys all tomorrow. Bye, guys.